before we get to that first half of the season, I wanted to touch on last night, the kind of a feud between Daryl Morey and the latest, of course, Daryl Morey famously in an ongoing feud with Mark Cuban. But last night, things kind of erupted with Charles Barkley. Those of you not familiar or who are living in under a rock today, um, not familiar with what happened last night. Basically, Barkley at halftime said that the Rockets and the Suns were the two worst defensive teams in the entire NBA. Houston, of course, sitting at fifth in overall defensive rating. Morey then responded on Twitter. I can't exactly remember what exactly it was. Do you have that in front of you?
Let's see. He said,
Something like the best part of
the
not.
best, yeah, the best part of being at a live game on TNT is that you get to avoid. The best part at being at a TNT game live is that it's easy to avoid Charles spewing misinformed, biased vitriol disguised as entertainment.
Yeah. Um, so then Barkley, so I guess they read that out on Inside the NBA. Barkley then responding with possibly the most asinine rant I can ever remember. And I was thinking about this earlier today, whether or not this even deserves the dignity of a response. I mean, just so many straw men. I mean, he was essentially arguing against a straw man in that argument, in that entire rant. But so much comic relief in parts of what he said. I mean, the list is endless. He essentially he said that. Well, I think my favorite part was when he said that. He kind of goes on to say that the Spurs and the Heat had not won because of analytics. They didn't use analytics, which is completely false. Those teams utilize those things as much as anyone except maybe the Rockets. But I mean, it's been heavily written about. Other highlights there. I think the best part to me, well, there's many best parts, but the best part to me is this idea, and I ranted on Twitter about this earlier today, this notion that the Rockets just suddenly got good because they went out and got James Harden. So Barkley goes on to say that, the Rockets, it's not because, they were terrible, but it's not because they didn't get good because of analytics. They just went out and got Dwight Howard. They went out and got James Harden. And it almost seems like Charles doesn't realize there's something called a salary cap. It's
You can
almost
just
like
pick players up whoever you
it's
want.
almost like
Yeah.
in his mind the image is of teams just throwing money at players, and then that's what kind of controls the ebb and flow of player movement in the NBA.
Yeah, he has this idea in his head that the Spurs and the Heat won championships on the backs of post play and greater talent and not analytics, which okay, that's fine. You can believe that, I guess. I was telling people about this after the fact, and I said to someone, "Oh yeah, Charles Barkley said that analytics are lies made up by nerds who couldn't get laid in high school," and they were like, "He didn't really say that, right?" And I was like, "No, he literally said that." I don't know. I think Maury's biggest mistake is actually engaging Charles Barkley. Trying to argue the point that analytics are useful is like trying to argue the sky is blue. You
Well,
don't.
you can't
There's no point.
you can't argue with someone who doesn't even really know what they're arguing about because, and you saw this a lot. It's not really even there really aren't that many people who really argue against analytics. It's become so widespread now, but we saw this a lot in the blogosphere. I guess this was really popular back when Kobe was actually good, and so there was actually more takes. But I think the most prevalent thing that I see is the straw man that.
Oh, yeah, he was
Mor-
burning those down all night long.
well, he was basically he was saying that essentially that talent is what wins, and Morey or none of these nerds ever said that talent wasn't important. Like, I think Charles has this idea that Morey is basically just sitting in front of his laptop and just plugging in numbers, and then whatever comes out, that's basically what he's do. Like,
Yeah, he's got
he's
like an Excel spreadsheet. He's like, yes, very good. We should get Corey Brewer. Yeah, I don't understand how people think this. Like the point of analytics is that you're better able to evaluate talent. Like the point is that talent wins, and so this lets you figure out who has more talent more effectively. Also hilarious is that I think people have this idea that Maury is some kind of like stone-faced dweeb who just like coldly calculates what to do. I don't. I haven't seen very many people more passionate about the team that they work for than Daryl Morey. Like that tweet in itself is an example that he can't hold back when he feels strongly. He's a very emotional dude, so it's really weird to me that people argue like, "Oh, it's just so dispassionate." No, like if once you guys have admitted that like points per game or like like shooting percentage actually matters, you're already on the path to analytics. I don't. It doesn't matter what they think. It's very vitriol of them, as Shaq would say, I suppose, to just keep going in on this.
Yeah, it was definitely humorous last
Vitriol.
night. But like there's really this, like I said, I mean, this notion that Maury thinks that talent doesn't matter is just baffling to me. Um,
Yeah, given he says over and over again, you have to have like two or three All Stars to win a championship. But let's not worry about that. Let's not worry about the fact that like, what was his example? To prove that the Rockets' defense wasn't good was that the defense wasn't good.
well, the example basically was that they had given up 118 points, not taking into account that the pace was out of control. I mean, that's just first of all, that's just one game to begin with. So it's completely,
A game they won, by the way.
yeah. It
Yeah,
was it was yeah.
so made a
Um,
point that every single team in the league has given up 115 points this season.
yeah.
All of them. So what? It doesn't really matter what Charles Barkley thinks. I think, which is the long and the short of it. I mean, his definition of analytics is things dumb people do or things smart people do that doesn't work. So okay, if that's what you think analytics are, that's fine. Have fun on the analytics panel, I guess. That should be fun.
Yeah. Moving on.